Good evening, morning, wherever you're watching this, everybody. Today, it is another history video, and I would like to talk to you about the 1930s. Last video was the 1920s. We're going 10 years forward into the Great Depression. And today, the question we're going to be answering is, what made the Great Depression last so long? It was a very long depression, almost as long as mine. So, the impacts it had were industrialization, World War I, the bull market in the 1920s, the protection of the global hegemon. These are all things that are going into the Great Depression. Now, the Great Depression, just for some background, the Great Depression was a series of small depressions. It wasn't just like one, it was more like, and so basically it wasn't a one massive depression. And the thesis for today is government policy was kind of responsible for the horrific nature of the Great Depression. That's our thesis for today. So the prolonged nature of the Great Depression was a result of the post-war gold policies amongst great powers. Now, does anyone here know what a gold policy is? No one here knows? Okay, just me. Yeah, it's me in every class. So the gold standard impacted the Great Depression. The gold standard is this idea that if the money that you're using, the currency you're using in your country, is directly based off how much gold you have. If you have X amount of gold, you have X amount of money. If you have X minus amount of gold, then you have X minus amount of money. They're completely in balance. So, what we're doing is, if we have less gold, we have less money being put through our political system. The belief that money should be backed by gold was not universally shared. Most wanted America to have gold and silver in their money because silver is much more common. And gold currency is very ridiculous. So, think about it this way. If you have 300 pounds of gold, and 300 pounds of gold is equal to, I don't know, $10 million, we'll say. $10 million. If you run out of your 300 pounds of gold when you're printing money, you don't have any more money to be printed. So people don't have money, which is an economic crash. So during World War I, many countries abandoned the gold standard. But, because people are stupid, after World War I, quote, it seemed logical that reconstructing the gold standard was essential to recovering what was good, unquote, Barry Eichengreen. Basically, the American government said, hey, we should use gold and money, basically, to bring back our country, because, we've suffered heavy losses from World War I. At some time, around that time, during World War I, France and Britain had recovered their gold standards. Ruin had followed. It had not turned out well at all, and we kind of completely ignored that. And the New Deal, which was kind of the thing that started helping end the Depression, it didn't really do a lot, but it was a good try, was made by Franklin Roosevelt at the end. The New Deal got rid of the gold standard, completely canceled it out, and it was one of the only effective policies in the New Deal. Everything else was kind of but yeah, removing the gold standard was great. So next, another one of the reasons that the Depression lasted so long was the global economy. It was all tangled up with each other. Think about it this way. If you have basically, I don't know, a whole bunch of countries, and they're all doing trade together, and this one is supplying, I don't know, sugar to everybody else, and this guy goes away, where do you get your sugar? You don't get sugar. So that crashes your economy. And what happened is that America was relying a lot on Asia and Europe, and when those things were affected negatively by World War I, they started to lose a lot of the economy. So, quote, from John Eikenberry. People and institutions were overwhelmed by a globalized world's pressures and consequences. You have a whole bunch of pressures and consequences on everybody at the same time, which leads to depression. Europe, Africa, America, Europe, Asia, America, and Africa are all trading and economically entangling, and then you cut one of the ropes, everything else falls with it. And that was another second reason why the Depression lasted so long. If we don't have everyone else rising up, America stays down. Number 3, America did not do a good job as a world leader because we had very little reason to. Think about it. At the end of the world, at the end of the Great Depression, at the end of World War I, we had the chance to be a world leader, and we tried to be, but we were horrible because we'd only been around for too short of an amount of time. At this point, we're still an world leader. We have power, but we're not using it the way that it needs to be used, at least I think. And it definitely happened like this at the beginning of the Great Depression. We do not have people leading forward trying to get other countries raising and get our economy back going. And that was another reason why the Depression lasted so long. And kind of final, as a last kind of anecdote, our government did not do a good job of solving the Depression. Quote from the contemporary source on the New Deal: "Today, the poor are poorer and the trusts are richer." The government was causing regulation and taxing. Taxing really took off in this period. And, of course, if you have taxing on a bunch of poor people, you have the poor becoming poorer, and the trusts, which are the government's money, becoming richer. So you have the balances tipping even more. So, those are pretty much most of the reasons that the Depression lasted so long. We had, let's see, let's go back through our notes like good little children. We had government policy not doing a good job of helping America get back on its feet. We had the gold standard, and we had economic entanglement with other countries. So, thank you for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you were educated.